I'm happy to report we made an arrest in the homicide that occurred yesterday at the Picasso Village Apartments here in Cranston. We arrested today, a short time ago, around 10:30, with the assistance of the Massachusetts State Police, Violent Fugitive Task Force, Boston Police Department, Cranston Police Detectives, Rhode Island Violent Fugitive Task Force, U.S. Marshals, all took part in an arrest of DeMauro Montero of Fall River, Massachusetts. He was arrested for the murder yesterday, so he's being charged with first-degree murder, 1 count, and likely some other charges will follow. The murder happened yesterday at approximately 9:21 a.m. We were notified of a person lying in the parking lot of that apartment complex. Our officers responded and found a young man identified as Eduardo Laron Colin, age 16, of Providence, fatally shot at that location. He had a single gunshot wound to his chest, and he was pronounced deceased at that location. The detectives did an outstanding job. Here we are, a little over 24 hours later, with the subject in custody. The preliminary investigation and surveillance footage captured the homicide at that location at 2:53 a.m., where 4 shots were fired, 1 fatally striking the victim. During the confrontation, there were 3 people that exited a stolen vehicle that arrived at the apartment complex, one of them being the victim. All 3 of these individuals were wearing masks and dark clothing, and we believe were planning to steal a vehicle at that location. For some reason, and we do not know the motive, DeMauro produced a handgun and fatally shot the 16-year-old that was with them. So they all arrived in the vehicle together. The individuals fled the area. Obviously, the victim was fatally shot and remained at that location until he was found the following day. We were able to use a lot of technology to track the individuals after this occurred. We recovered .40 caliber shell casings from the scene. As I mentioned, a video capturing the incident, and we seized 2 vehicles connected to the investigation. We work with our partner agencies, Providence Police, Fall River Police Department, Coventry Police Department, and the Rhode Island Attorney General's office during the investigation, which led to this quick apprehension. And again, I can't commend the detectives enough. They normally would be here, but they're still chasing leads. This investigation is far from over at this time. So the individual was arrested, like I mentioned, at 10:20 a.m. approximately on Fuller Street in Dorchester, Massachusetts. At that time, the fugitive task forces made entry into the apartment and arrested the suspect without incident. We believe there are firearms inside the residence. The Massachusetts State Police are in the process of obtaining a court-authorized search warrant to search that location for those firearms, and we're hoping that one of the firearms was used in our homicide, as well as on the other evidence that may connect them to our homicide here in Cranston. He is currently in Boston Police custody. He will be arraigned as a fugitive from justice at some point. We will hopefully get him extradited back here to Rhode Island. As you know, that's a process that takes place. We don't know if Massachusetts will have criminal charges. Depends on what is found in that location. He was not living at that address. He had a female acquaintance he was staying with overnight. He fled to that area after the homicide. He does reside in Fall River, Massachusetts. And I just, myself and the major, had the unfortunate task of informing the 16-year-old's mother and sister about the death of their loved one. And I can tell you that is a difficult thing to do for us. And this is a young man. It was a senseless tragedy, a senseless act of violence. We still don't quite understand why this murder took place. But our thoughts are with his family as they grieve the loss of their son and brother. So anybody out there, there might be other people out there that have information that led up to this incident. We're asking that they contact the Cranston Police Detective Division. We also have an anonymous tips line that's in your press releases. So that's completely anonymous, and we can communicate back and forth in that manner. So the investigation's far from over, but there is another individual that we believe might have conspired to commit this crime, and we're working to identify him and also bring him to justice. So we believe there were two suspects, one shooter and one person that conspired. And so our goal is to identify the other person, and based on the great work that our detectives do, I believe we'll be successful in that. But very happy. There is some level of closure for the family, but this is an unusual incident. I mentioned yesterday, we go to that apartment complex very rarely. It's a very quiet neighborhood. I know you all spoke with the neighbors there. They'll tell you that rarely does anything like this happen. Cranston remains a very safe city, but the bottom line is we are a city of 80,000 residents. And at the end of the day, there's going to be crime. And I can tell you any major incident that's happened in this city has been solved quickly thanks to the great work of our detective division and our patrol officers. So I'll take any questions you have at this time.
Do you have a description of the conspirator you were looking for?
We will put that out. Unfortunately, these individuals are wearing dark clothing and hoods and masks, so obviously that makes it difficult, but we will put out a basic description, but it's going to be pretty basic, so that's why we haven't really put it out as of yet.
Colonel, again, the victim arrived with the other two at that apartment complex?
Yes, they arrived in a stolen vehicle that was stolen out of Fall River a few days before this incident. There was some implements recovered at the scene that lead us to believe that they were attempting possibly to steal another vehicle, and these three individuals exited the vehicle together at the same time, and at some point unexplicitly this individual, Damari, brandished a firearm and shot the victim dead at that location. So we don't know what led up to that, but we clearly have good evidence in this case.
Do you know where they had been prior to that?
We know that they were at the Dominican Festival earlier in the evening, and they were cruising around with friends, and not sure prior to that where they were, but again, the license plate reader technology aided us in this investigation. I always make sure that I mention that, how important that technology is.
Is there any reason they would be targeting that apartment complex, or did it appear to be a random location?
I think it was a random location. We have had cars stolen from that location, but it's right over the Providence line. It's just an opportunity, I guess, to possibly steal a vehicle. But I don't think there was any other reason. There was no specific reason to go to that location other than there was several vehicles there.
What do we know so far about how these individuals knew each other prior to that night?
We know they were loosely acquainted through other individuals. Obviously, they're not from Providence. They're from Fall River, and we believe the other suspect is from Boston. So, but we believe that the connection to the victim was through mutual friends.
How pivotal was that surveillance footage in kind of piecing together what happened here?
I mean, anytime you get an actual video of a homicide, it doesn't happen that often, and it was a very clear video. A lot of times you go to an apartment complex, the camera's facing another direction, or that's an old system that is grainy. This was extremely clear. It had audio as well, so you could hear the shots, and literally it happened right in front of a camera. So that was helpful, but there was a lot of detective work that needed to be done because, again, they were wearing dark clothing, hoods, and things of that nature. So, again, these detectives worked around the clock, literally from 9:21 a.m., and I was here pretty late myself, and then the next morning, right through the night, and to make sure the subject got placed in custody without incident. He's a very dangerous individual.
How challenging was that for you guys in terms of the fact that the body was there for roughly 6 hours? Did that make it more challenging for you?
Not really. Again, we have the video evidence, and the medical examiner's office arrived, and we were able to collect. A lot of the evidence wasn't really disturbed. There was one vehicle that was struck by a round, and you might have heard the story, but her window was shattered, and she didn't realize it. She went to work and heard like a whistling noise and realized the window was shattered. What's unusual is there's 4 very distinct shots that go off, and not a single person called the police, and I don't know if they thought it was fireworks. I'm not sure. the reason being, but we frequently get calls for noise complaints and things of that nature. So I was a bit surprised about that, but the video surveillance was a really big piece of evidence for us.
Will you be releasing any of that surveillance footage?
No, unfortunately, we need to close hold that because it's going to be part of the prosecution, and especially if other witnesses come forward or other suspects, that's going to be a key piece of people having intimate knowledge of what happened there, so we won't be able to release that.
Did they leave the scene in the same stolen car?
Yes, they did.
Was that 16-year-old sort of obscured by other vehicles, you know, on the ground, or like how was it? How visible was he, you know, from where he was lying?
Not very visible. So he was lying next to a car towards the bike path. There's a fence there, so he was in between a car and a fence. Nobody would really walk there until the morning. So, you know, he was laying there from, you know, around 2:30 a.m. all the way to 9:21 a.m. when we got the call.
That suspect vehicle, was it a car, SUV?
It's a Hyundai Elantra sedan.
Carl, is that the one, what can you tell us about Aleppo Street, and then there was activity last night on Joslin Street?
Yeah, so Providence recovered that Hyundai Elantra on Aleppo Street, and that was later on in the evening, and so we do have that vehicle here at Cranston Police Headquarters. And what was the other location?
There was police activity last night I saw on Joslin Street.
Yep, so we did go to Joslin Street with Providence. We had information that the victim's phone was pinging at a residence there. So to use all precaution, we worked with Providence Police Department and used their tactical team to make entry, and there was nobody inside when they entered the location.
Can you tell us what section of Providence the victim is from?
He lives in that Joslin Street
He
area.
lives there.
Yes, the
Okay.
Manton Avenue area.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Is there any more information you can share about the victim? Did he go to school in the Providence area? Was he involved in the community at all?
I don't know if he was going to school. I don't believe so at the time. Don't have a lot of information. Again, you know, we spoke to his mom, and you know, they said he was a good kid, and you know, sometimes you you're in the wrong situation, maybe with the wrong people, and I think that was a situation here. But you know, 16 years old is so young. You know, he's just a kid, and well, I mentioned we're reviewing surveillance footage. We're interviewing a lot of different people, family members, to try to figure out who he was last with. And then there's just multiple interviews that spin off from there. And of course, the license plate reader technology, we're bringing up social media accounts. The whole team's doing something different, you know. And at some point, they're working cohesively, but all got different roles, if you will. And they did a tremendous job. Our BCI unit that processed the scene for evidence. And of course, our detectives that were in Boston this morning were actually assigned to the Violent Fugitive Task Force, two detectives. And they were able to be actually right there and make the apprehension. And I believe once that apartment is searched, I'm confident we're going to end up with more evidence related to our homicides.
So he's being held in mass, and then any idea when he may show up in Rhode Island?
It all depends on if charges are lodged by Massachusetts authorities. Sometimes these take a while. Obviously, he can fight extradition, and then you have to get a governor's warrant. It could be weeks. It could be, if he waives extradition, they have no charges. He could be back as soon as this week.
But it's unclear when a hearing in Massachusetts might happen.
It's unclear. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to arraign him this afternoon. That's up to Massachusetts State Police. Yeah, we don't know if they have charges, but he will have to be arraigned as a fugitive from justice, and then how he decides to go from there. But I'm assuming he'll be held until he's either extradited back here and he'll face a first-degree murder count.
Sir, is this his first run-in with the law? Do we know?
I don't have his criminal history with me, but I understand that he may have a criminal past. There may be some gang involvement. He's originally from Chicago and moved to Fall River not too long ago. So that's kind of how he knows some of the people here that lived in Fall River, that live in Providence now. So there was a lot of work in. Like Fall River PD was great to work with. They were very helpful, and some other departments that I mentioned, they all played a role.
Can you touch on the detective division and just, it's my impression the group worked through the night on
Yes.
this case.
Yeah, they didn't stop, so kudos to them. Again, we don't get a lot of homicides in Cranston, thankfully so. But when we do, it's all hands on deck, and that includes myself, the major, whoever else. So we were here very late into the night, early morning. They made great progress. The murder warrant was signed late last night, about midnight, a little before midnight, and once that warrant was signed, we began tracking him, and we were able to track him up to Boston today, and he was arrested without incident.
Going back to the homicide, is this the first homicide this year? Did I miss that?
Yes, for us, yes.
For in Cranston?
Yes.
Since before then, what was the last homicide?
I need some help with this one. And that's a good thing. I don't know if Captain. July of last year, an individual was run over by a vehicle, and you know, we tend to get maybe one a year. Some years 0. Those are the best years when you get a 0. But again, this is a very safe city. I know there's been a lot of high-profile incidents, and the immediate thought is what's going on in Cranston. Well, number one, we're extremely transparent. I think you all know that we give you the information. We don't hide anything. And we have a great police department. We make the arrest. But we are a city. Like, the people that we've dealt with in the past have come from other localities, if you will. And it's our job to police everybody and keep our residents safe, and we'll continue to do that. But our crime rate is very low. It remains very low. Excuse me.
In reviewing that surveillance footage, does it appear that the attack was planned out, or does it look like something escalated while they were at the
That's a great question, because obviously we're not at liberty to know what they're saying. We can see body language. You know, my immediate thoughts is that this was maybe planned out to a certain extent. It almost looked like an execution. That's how I would describe it from what I saw.
Hard
Now,
to see?
it is hard to see, because you know, this young man was trying to escape, and you know, unfortunately he was chased down and he was murdered. I mean, it's horrible.
Colonel, maybe you already covered it, but who was driving the vehicle? Where was the victim sitting when they arrived?
So the suspect was driving the vehicle. I believe, correct me if I'm not wrong, that the victim was in the front seat,
Passenger seat.
front passenger seat, Captain. Yeah.
And
He
so-
was in the back, but then he was in the front. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
but then the suspect that's on the loose was then sitting in the back?
The suspect that's in the yes,
Oh.
yes.
Okay. Do you have anything else on this? So this individual from Chicago ends up in Fall River. Anything else as far as gang affiliation?
Well, there's a lot of neighborhood gangs, you know, that are out there. So, you know, it seems these days everybody's affiliated with somebody or some crew, if you will. There's a lot of people out there that are stealing Hyundais and Kias. So there's the Kia boys, and there's all these groups out there, and they just get together, and that's basically what they do. So I don't know how familiar the victim was with the suspect and his friend. I don't think it was a really close relationship, but again, they knew somebody in common, and that's how they linked up.
Have you been able to track down where they got these weapons?
That will be part of the investigation. So hopefully we can recover the weapons. That's the first part. We hope they're in the Fuller Street residence, and then we'll do a full trace, and we'll do a ballistic testing, and we'll work with the Massachusetts authorities to do that, and hopefully we can work our way backwards. But most often the weapons are stolen from a house break somewhere. That's usually what the case. They're usually lawfully purchased, but then stolen.
I mean, pretty jarring, Chief, describing that as execution style. I'm just curious, from a timeline perspective, how quickly were those first shots fired from when they stepped out of the car?
Within a minute. I mean, it was quick. It was, you know, those flashlights, and people were moving around, and, you know, they never actually got into a vehicle, like never broke into a vehicle. They weren't successful in doing that. And then as soon as the victim talked, you can see two people kind of talking back and forth, almost like they were planning this, and you can see one individual, the suspect, we believe, remove a weapon, a firearm, a pistol, and as the individual comes around towards the back of the car, immediately, that's when he was, the first shots were fired.
When you say he was trying to escape, what did you mean by that?
Well, there were several shots fired. I don't believe he got hit with all the shots, and he was running.
But you believe right now that the initial goal for them was to steal a car? That's why they showed up there? That's what it appeared to be?
It appeared to be that way, based on the items seized from the scene, the fact they arrived in a stolen car, the implements, like I said, they had with them, and then, you know, some of the interviews we've done, we believe that was either their real intent or it could have been a ruse. We'll never, I don't know if we'll ever know. I don't know if this individual is going to cooperate. We are trying to interview him, but chances are he probably won't tell us that. We might never get to the bottom of that question. Any other questions?
Just, Mayor, if you want to, you want to mention how it's the second high-profile situation, but it was immediately solved by your police department?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for the work that our detectives did overnight. They were absolutely fantastic. The major and the colonel took the lead. They were here. We talked to each other about midnight last night.
Yes,
it was pretty late that we were in communication with each other. So again, I just want to reiterate that the city of Cranston is very safe. If you notice the two high-profile incidents that you're talking about, those people came in from Massachusetts. They're not from Rhode Island. They're not from Cranston. And I'm going to tell you this. If you come into my city, we're going to catch you if you do something wrong. That better be very, very clear to everybody out there. If you think you're going to come into Cranston and you're going to break the law, we've got the best police department going, and they will catch you.
You know, Mayor, one of the first people I spoke to today, a Cranston resident on the street, told me that the police were going to have this solved by the end of the day.
Mhm.
And it seems, you know, we have certainly made some steps in that direction. How important is it for you to have the public's trust in the safety of the city?
Yeah, it's interesting because I did go on some social media to see what some of the responses were, and there were people talking about Cranston becoming another crime-ridden city, and that's absolutely not true. We are the safest city. We've got statistics that will report that, and once again, I'm telling you, I will give the police department whatever they need to keep our residents safe. And if you want to come into Cranston and you want to violate the laws of our city, we will catch you and we will prosecute you.